What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Inside Inter Miami, the Miami Herald show about all things Inter Miami and the soccer world, Lionel Messi, and all in between. And I am your host, Deputy Sports Editor Andre Fernandez, joined once again by our Inter Miami beat writer, Michelle Kaufman. This is another packed show that we're going to bring you a lot of info this week. We're going to go look ahead to what's left for Inter Miami, and that is the MLS Cup. The Leagues Cup didn't happen. CONCACAF before that didn't happen. It's all about the MLS Cup at this point for Inter Miami, and it starts with a big opportunity this weekend. They're facing their old rival, Cincinnati, the team that blew them out the last time they played. They can clinch a playoff spot. Michelle will go over some of the playoff scenarios. If you haven't read her story about all of that yesterday yet, she'll have all the ways they can clinch the playoff spot. Then we're going to preview the actual match against Cincinnati. Obviously, it was ugly the last time. Can they change it? Michelle spoke to Noah Allen about that on Wednesday morning, so we'll have some of his reaction to those topics and more. And, of course, another Lionel Messi injury update. If he practiced or not, the latest on him. But let's start with that MLS Cup side. Michelle, this is it. And, I mean, we talked a little bit about it already in recent weeks. The pressure is on now. They've got to come up with some kind of hardware to make this to justify this entire endeavor that they've put together.
Yeah, I mean, this is obviously the most hyped, most expensive MLS team. This is a team that came into this season with these huge expectations that maybe the trifecta of trophies, that maybe they would win Champions Cup and Leagues Cup and MLS Cup, win all three of them. And with the roster that they have, we're talking about they have a roster that has four players who played for Barcelona together. And on top of that, you've got these young guys who have come in from South America that are here because they wanted to play with Messi. They're guys who had opportunities to play elsewhere and they chose to play here. And then you've got Drake Callender, who was on the U.S. national team. There are 11 players on this team who are on their national team pools. So this is a highly, highly talented, highly touted, much hyped team. And they are in first place. They're in first place in the MLS standings. And we'll talk about that now as they lead into the final stretch of that season. But the first two opportunities they had to win cups, they did not. They lost to Monterrey in the round of 16, or the quarterfinals. Actually, they lost in the quarterfinals of the CONCACAF Champions Cup to Monterrey, and then just last Tuesday, they lost to Columbus in the Leagues Cup in the round of 16. So now there's only one cup left, and to be honest, I really feel in my heart of hearts that the MLS Cup meant more to them and means more to the fans, to be honest, than if they would have won another Leagues Cup. You look now and see that the four semifinalists for the Leagues Cup are all MLS teams. And that's just kind of boring, to be honest. It's sort of a lot of redundancy, like, MLS team against Columbus Crew against Philadelphia. It's not as exciting, I don't think, to the fans or to Inter Miami as a club. I think they would be very, very highly motivated to win the first MLS Cup in team history, something they've never even gotten close to. They made the playoffs once, but they had expanded to, 9 teams because of COVID and whatever. They've never really been a strong playoff contending team. They didn't even make the playoffs last year. They finished in 14th place, second to last, nowhere near the playoff line. So, this is it now. MLS Cup, this is the only cup that's left on the table for them to grab. The other 2 cups are gone in the rearview mirror. There are 9 games left. 9 games left. They can clinch a playoff spot with a win and some other scenarios that I'll go over on Saturday against Cincinnati. But if they beat Cincinnati, they are going to the playoffs. And that would be really quick for them to go with 8 games to spare to be in the playoffs. Is something this team has never experienced.
Yeah, because the one time they were a playoff team really wasn't. It was the COVID year, super expanded field. It didn't feel right, not the same by any stretch. So yeah, it would be a historic occasion. But you, as we said before, you spoke to Noah Allen. Let's see what he had to say about this being it, the last chance to win the trophy.
I think we're not looking too forward right now. I think we're focusing on the game this weekend. Obviously, our ambitions are high, our goals are high. We want to win everything, every trophy, but it's game by game. reflecting from last game, and I think just moving forward, focusing on this weekend against a really good opponent. I think that's the main goal.
And it's definitely a great opponent. I mean, this is it right here. This is the other. We talked about Columbus being a potential obstacle. Cincinnati, of course, embarrassed them the last time they played. Michelle, looking at this one, the opportunities there. I mean, the scenario is there for them to clinch. I guess if you can tell the fans kind of like what the outlook is with a victory in this game.
Right. Well, I mean, a victory in this game, they're in the playoffs. In addition to that, there's the added motivation that they were completely humiliated and embarrassed on July 6th. They lost 6-1 on the road to this team. 6 goals is the most goals ever conceded by this club in team history. It was obviously the most lopsided loss of this season. It was overall a horrible game. It's a game that a lot of fans and the team would probably like to forget, but I did go back and review it. Let's look at the nightmare again. Let's relive it. The truth is this is not necessarily excuses, but let's discuss some of the reasons that they may have really not played better than they did. One is 6 starters were missing, and I'll list who they were. Here are the players who did not play in that game. Luis Suarez was out for Copa America. Lionel Messi was out for Copa America. Jordi Alba was out, and Diego Gomez was out. They were both serving yellow card suspensions. Matias Rojas was out. He had just come back from Copa America, but he sat out that game. And then Tomas Aviles had a knee injury. So he was on the bench, but was not in the starting lineup. So you're talking about a starting lineup that did not have Messi, Suarez, Aviles, Alba, Gomez, Rojas. Those are very, very, very important players. On top of that, as if that wasn't enough for them to have to overcome, Sergio Busquets, of all people, he was thrown out of the game with 30 minutes to go. He was tossed out with a second yellow card. He was ejected. So they ended up playing a man down for the final 30 minutes of that game. But that game was ugly. Tata was extremely disappointed, obviously, after that game, and said that he gave some harsh comments about his team after that game. He said that team exposed their weaknesses, and that their weaknesses are on the defensive side. We've discussed it before. We will discuss it again, which is that this team knows how to score. But even going into that game, they had given up more goals than any other team in the top 8 in the standings heading into that game. And then they gave up 6. So Tata said that they reverted back to, they had sort of cleaned up their mess for a while in the early summer and June and the first game of July. But then that game, they reverted, he said, to some really bad habits defensively. They were particularly slow in transition defense. They allowed themselves to get in very dangerous situations. And so Tata said at that point, after that game, that Cincinnati is one of the top 3 teams in the league, which he keeps harping, that the top 3 are Cincinnati, Columbus, and LAFC. And he keeps saying that Inter Miami is not in the top 3 until they are fully healthy, that is the only time he feels that they could be in the top 3. And as of then, he didn't feel they were in the top 3. He has repeated that recently, that they're still not at full strength, and he's still not sure that they're a top 3 team. So this game is going to be really, really tough. Cincinnati has Lucho Acosta, has Yuya Koba, has Luca Orellano. Those 3 guys Miami could not contain at all in the last game. Now, again, Miami was missing a lot of good players. They are going to be, pretty much at full strength, except for Lionel Messi, which we will discuss later.
Yeah, it's to have all those pieces missing against all that firepower was not a good combo for this team, and they paid for it. And honestly, I think this is the game that they really need to make a statement that they're ready to challenge and win this MLS Cup. I really think so, because it hasn't gone well against those top tier teams that you mentioned, that Tata mentioned, and they need a win. They need a big win that'll get this rolling again. Let's see what Noah Allen had to say about the matchup against Cincinnati.
the last time you played Cincinnati was really an anomaly. I mean, this team had never given up that many goals. What are you expecting from this game on Saturday, and what went wrong in that game? Was it just something specific that you guys can fix, or what are you expecting this time compared to that last game?
Yeah, last game obviously was something we want to move forward from. We're on a long away trip that week. We had two very good results that week, and I think ultimately the team kind of got a bit fatigued, also away. So, and they're a very good team. We know that they're a very good team, but we're prepared this week. We've been going at it, battling with each other, going over tactics, studying really hard, and I think that's just the most important. Going into the game, being compact, knowing that they're a good team, but knowing that we're a better team. So that's the main goal, obviously.
Yeah, and looking at this matchup, one of the biggest keys to me is the biggest key as far as the player Cincinnati has, I think, is Acosta. If you look at, he leads the MLS in assists, key passes. I mean, the distributor of that entire attack for Cincinnati. They have to account for him on the defensive side, or else they're in big trouble.
Yeah, they have to account for him, and we haven't mentioned, but DeAndre Yedlin is on that team too,
Right.
and he has become quite a leader. This is a guy who was the captain of this team before Lionel Messi arrived here. He was the captain of Inter Miami. He has great leadership skills. He played a very good game against Miami last time, and as much as he loves, he and Drake Callender are literally, they are best friends. I mean, they are very, very close friends, and despite all the friendships that DeAndre has on this team, he wants to beat this team, and he's another player that Miami is going to have to focus on. And yes, this game, if they come out and don't win this game at home, it's going to be a really, really, really disappointing result for the players. It would be very deflating, and for the fans. The fans have been watching them. Yes, they are on top of the league. They're on top of the league, but they have fallen short in both cups. The fans also paid twice the money, twice the ticket prices this year because of the Lionel Messi factor, and he has not played in 11 games in a row for this team. So it's a game that is really, really important for the fans to have a good outcome, to feel good going into the future for the final 8 games of the season. And yes, the big thing too is that they can clinch. They can clinch a playoff spot with a win. I was going to go over some of the other outcomes of how they could also win. They can also win without doing anything. Even if they lose, they can advance to the playoffs with a Toronto loss or tie at Houston. So if Toronto loses or ties at Houston, Miami is guaranteed a playoff spot anyway. Also, if Inter Miami, now pay attention, everybody, pay attention closely here. If Inter Miami ties and Atlanta United loses or ties against the LA Galaxy, Miami's in. I will repeat. If Inter Miami ties and Atlanta loses or ties against the Galaxy, then Miami's in. If Inter Miami ties and Orlando City loses or ties at Kansas City, Miami's in. Again, Inter Miami tie and an Orlando City loss or tie against Kansas City, they're in. An Inter Miami tie and a Charlotte loss or tie against the New York Red Bulls, Miami's in. Finally, if Inter Miami ties and New England Revolution loses at home against Montreal, Inter Miami's in. So basically, in summary, there are many, many, many ways for Inter Miami to clinch a playoff spot this weekend. And it is pretty clear that this team is going to be in the playoffs. I mean, they would have to have a absolute complete meltdown to not make the playoffs at this point. They have 53 points already. Last year, the 7th place team that made the playoffs got in with 49 points. So they're already ahead of where the 7th place team was last year. So I think it's a pretty safe assumption that they're going to make the playoffs, but they're pretty fired up to try to clinch it this Saturday against an opponent like Cincinnati and have 8 games to spare. That would also, winning that far in advance will also give them home field advantage for most of the rounds. The only one that they would have to play on the road would be in the group stage of the first round. They play 3, or they would have to play 1 home and 1 away. So Otherwise, they'll have home field advantage if they stay on top and stay leading the Supporter Shield race. So they have so much to play for. They have so much to play for right now.
Yeah, and putting that in perspective, of course, all these scenarios that Michelle threw at you, that's the clinch this week. Like she said, if things don't go right, if all that doesn't happen, still very likely this happens at some point next week, the week after, at some point the clinch in. The thing there is to maintain that position they're in right now at the top of the standings. It's important because if Cincinnati wins this, they cut that deficit to 2 points, and then 1 week can flip it at that point. We saw that happening earlier this season when they were just neck and neck. Inter Miami keeping that 2-point lead until finally Cincy had it for a moment, and then they suffered two consecutive losses, dropped back down to second. But it's just great for them, obviously, to be in that position. But it's amazing. Instead of kind of relishing in the fact that how bad this team was for so long, and oh my God, they're in first place. But now there's so much pressure too, because it's like it's win or bust. It's MLS Cup or bust for this team.
Yeah, I think it absolutely is. I mean, Tata was asked that, we discussed last week, and I asked Noah Allen the same thing, is this season considered a failure? And I asked Matias Rojas, and, they both had answers about, it's not necessarily a failure. Matias Rojas said, his answer was interesting. He said, we wouldn't be in the situation we're in right now if we had not played so well all season. We would not be in position to clinch a playoff spot in August if we had not played so well all season. So we consider ourselves to be a team that's been highly successful this year, which is why we're in first place and able to maybe clinch a spot this Saturday. Even though we did not win the 2 cups, we are still a very successful team. And that the proof of that is that we are in first place, going into this game against Cincinnati. And that was interesting perspective, which is true. Overall, you look at the big picture, they have won obviously the vast majority of the games. They've had a really good record. They've scored lots of goals. They are in first place. They were in 14th place last year in MLS. They're now in first place in MLS, leading the entire league, not just the Eastern Conference, with the best record. But like we mentioned, they are vulnerable defensively. And against a team like Cincinnati or Columbus, LAFC, these are the 3 teams that Tata keeps warning about. They're going to have to play much better defense against those teams. Otherwise, they will be exposed. And they're not going to win the cup. To win the cup, even if they score goals, they need to also play defense.
Yeah, and that's paramount, especially against the players as skilled as they're going to see on Saturday. Let's talk a little bit about not having Lionel Messi, but first let's see what Noah Allen had to say about Messi's prolonged absence and ongoing absence from the team.
Noah, Lionel Messi hasn't played for you guys since June 1st, but he's always around. Can you talk about his influence? How much contact do you guys have with him? Is he involved in pregame talks? Is he involved in, what kind of contact do you guys have with him, and how does he influence the team when he's not available to play?
No, he's around. We see him every day, say hi. He definitely has an influence. He talks to a lot of guys. We see him talking in the gym. I'm going over, he watches us train. He stays around with us in the facility. He comes to all the games that are home. So, he has a big influence, and, I know that he's progressing really well, and I know that soon he'll be back.
So Messi trying to be there for his team as much as he can. But Michelle, as of Wednesday morning, any activity at all? Anything? Zero.
Nothing that we got to see. Zero. We only get to watch 15 minutes of the training. The first 15 minutes is what we get to watch. He was not outside. He's been in the gym the whole time. We don't get to see him. I mean, we don't get to walk around the gym. We don't get to walk around the facility. We get to go to the practice. We interview 2 players during the week. Like today we had Matias Rojas and Noah Allen. And then on Friday, we will get to interview Tata for the pregame and Robert Taylor. So on Fridays, we get the coach and 1 player. During the week, we get 2 players. And then we got to watch 15 minutes, the opening 15 minutes of training, and then they close it up and they make us leave. We have to even leave the parking lot. We can't hang around. So Messi has not been there. He has not been outside with the team. He has not even been outside training alone with a trainer on the field. All the work that he's been doing, from what we've been told, has been inside the gym. So he has not been even promoted to the position of being outside and maybe jogging a little bit with a trainer or whatever. He's not even at that point yet, which is pretty concerning, because Tata had said before that he hoped to have his full team, including Messi, by the end of August. That was his hope. That was his wish. The injury happened on July 14th. So we are now over a month. It's been 5 weeks since that injury to his right ankle ligament injury during the Copa America final against Colombia. And here we are 5 weeks later. He's still not on the field at all. So once he comes to the field, so let's say in the next few days, let's say even that he comes out of the gym, finally he emerges, and we get to see him maybe in the first 15 minutes. Then there's a period of time when guys are recovering where they spend some time with the trainer one-on-one, separate, aside on the field. That usually is about a week, sometimes more than a week, that they're training just with the trainer alone, one-on-one, doing one-on-one work. Then they get to join the group for group training, but no contact. So sometimes they will then return to the no contact drills. So they're basically, they're with the group and they're doing some of the things that the group does, but they don't get to participate in the scrimmages and in the contact drills. So he is still looking at the fact that he's not even on the field yet. He's not going to play this Saturday. I mean, we'll find out for sure on Friday, but unless he's working out and we're not seeing it, he is probably not going to play this Saturday. And then the next game after that is at Chicago the following Saturday. That would mean that in 1 week's time, he would have to come out to the field, work out with a trainer one-on-one, go back to group training, go back to contact drills, and be ready for a game in 9 days. Highly unlikely, from my experience of seeing how this team operates. Highly unlikely. After that, there's a home game. Now there's a break there. And let's discuss this. There's a break for the first 2 weeks of September. There's a FIFA break. That FIFA break, Messi was supposed to be gone to Argentina to play for the Argentine national team against Chile, September 5th, and a rematch against Colombia on September 10th for World Cup qualifiers. He was not put on the roster. He is not on the roster for Argentina for those 2 games. Another indication that the injury is dragging on here, because that he always wants to play in that blue and white shirt whenever he can. And the plans were that he was probably going to play in those games. And now he's not even on the roster for those 2 games. The good news for Inter Miami is that that 2-week break, there are no games. So the next game after August 31st, the next game is going to be on September 14th against Philadelphia, September 14th. So that's another 2 weeks more that he would have to get ready. And then at that point, there are 7 games. There would be 7 games remaining. Philadelphia at home, Atlanta and NYC on the road, Charlotte at home, the Crew and Toronto on the road, and New England at home. So there would be 7 games left that he might be able to play in.
I mean, not just from the team standpoint, but if you're the fans too, I mean, it's kind of it sucks.
It
really sucks, because think about it. I mean, if you're well off and you can afford these tickets, okay, maybe it's a little less of a hit. But let's say you're somebody that invested. Like we've all done that in the past. We've all done at some point in our lives where maybe it's a concert or a big event where you're like, oh yeah, I really want to go. And like a year ahead, and you set aside money, and you're saving up for it. And you buy these season tickets.
Or for your kid's birthday, or for an anniversary, or a birthday gift you buy for your spouse. And you're like, oh, we're going to go to this, because they've always wanted to see Messi play.
And he's not there. And he hasn't, and I'm not, and you can't, and it's not through no fault of his own. Injuries happen. But I mean, this is at a point now where, 58% of their games and rising as this continues I mean, like you said, he may not be back. I mean, we're thinking at best maybe mid-September after that break, but even that's iffy.
Yeah, even that's iffy. I mean, we remember last year. If you go back to last year, there's a little bit of a deja vu here, which is they had the Leagues Cup run. You know, he arrives, the Messiah has arrived. Everybody
Yeah.
was so excited. There was so much energy. It was just incredible. And they go and win 7 games in a row and they lift the Leagues Cup trophy. Everybody's just on top of the world on this team, not the players, the staff, the fans, you know, so much media coverage, everything. The ticket prices were through the roof, absolutely through the roof everywhere they were playing. And they started again, you know, when the MLS season after Leagues Cup, they still played well. They won at LAFC, which was an unbelievable win for them. With all the superstars, Hollywood stars were there, all the movie stars watching. Inter Miami beats them there. I believe it was 3-1. And then he went to play for Argentina. He went to play for Argentina and got injured. And after that point, he missed 6 games of their final stretch. He missed 6 games, and Jordi Alba missed a few games also with an injury. And everything, you know, everything really went down at that point. From the time that he was gone, they only won 2 of their final 7 games. You know, so they had a really tough stretch without him. And now here we are. The team was doing really well, and the team is still on top of the table. But now he got injured with the Argentine national team. I'm not blaming the Argentine coaching staff or anything. It just so happens he got injured both times while not on national team duty. And now Inter Miami doesn't have him for an extended period of time, and it's indefinite at this point. We don't have a date. We don't know when he's going to return. And, you know, last year that turned out to be really bad. Now, I will say the difference between this year and last year is when I looked at the roster of who was playing in those last 7, 8, 9 games, this is a much improved team, even without Messi. If you take Messi out of both of those rosters, the team right now is a much stronger team than the team that was playing last September and October.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
So, no doubt that this team has improved. This team has shown that it can win without him. It has been winning without him because he just hasn't been around. But it's crunch time now. It's crunch time now. And they need to win this game on Saturday, clinch the playoff spot, and then, you know, win out as much as they can and lift that trophy. And whenever he returns, he returns. I know they would love to win for him. Also, I wanted to mention, I didn't have the video of Matias Rojas' interview, but I asked him, or he was asked the same thing about what is Messi's influence when he's not there. And he said, I've said it a million times, I'll say it again. We are teammates with the best player in the history of the game. He said, in my estimation, he's the best player in history, and he is our teammate, and he has a huge influence on us, whether he's playing or not. And he said that he speaks to the players a lot, particularly the Spanish-speaking players. He did say that, which Noah Ellen is not one of them, but he said he does speak to those of us who speak Spanish quite a bit, that he watches all the games. After the games, he talks to them about what went wrong here, what they might have done there. Then he said he talks to them in the locker room. He talks to them, you know, in the gym. He goes to their training and talks to them. So he said that he communicates quite a bit and even sometimes gives some pregame chats, pregame motivational, you know, talks, not big talks, but just talks to guys before games and gives them advice or gives them just some motivation for the next game. So he said that even when Messi is not there on the field, he is still having a huge influence, and they want to win for him. They want to win for their captain. They you know, they respect him so much and admire him so much. And you know, the one thing I also will say is that when you talk about the influence that he has on this team, even when he's not on the field, the fact that the roster of this team includes Sergio Busquets, Jordi Alba, Luis Suarez, Matias Rojas, Diego Gomez, the reason Redondo, The reason, Facundo Farias, the reason that those guys are on this team is because Lionel Messi is here and they wanted to play with him. If he was not on this roster, the roster would not include any of those players. None of those players would be here. So the team is better even when he's not on the field, because the fact that his name is on the roster is the reason that so many of those other names are on this roster. So he does have an influence even, when he's not playing.
Double-edged sword, though, because it goes back to, as long as he's there, all the star power is here. Second he goes, what happens?
Yeah.
And I know nobody wants to hear this, but is his body breaking down at this point in his career that he's getting injured so much? I mean, I think it's a valid question. I mean, we probably don't have enough time to discuss that in this show, in this episode.
No, but it's a valid question. He had not been injury prone. He was not known for being injury prone.
Yeah.
He was not an injury prone player. And now, to be honest, since he got here last year, he already had a stretch of injuries at the end of last MLS season. He had injury at the beginning of this season that he overcame. Then he had the ankle injury in the summer, which is now dragging into the fall. You do have to start asking the question. He's 37 years old. He is unbelievable. When he's healthy, he's still incredible, an incredible player. But, Father Time, he is human.
Yep.
He is human.
Yep. I think we just need to both drink some yerba mate like we promised a few weeks ago, and maybe that'll turn the tide here.
I think maybe we'll do that. Maybe we should get some for the next show. We will drink some yerba mate and it will improve our health, and we will see if somehow that vibe, that juju, that vibe will transfer over through our podcast to Lionel Messi.
There you go. We'll send it to him. We'll do this and we'll send it to him.
We'll do this. We'll drink our yerba mate with that little straw, with the metal straw, and then we'll point. We'll point up to the sky, and that will somehow come down onto Messi.
Yep. Well, whatever will happen, we'll recap it for you this weekend. After this weekend, next week with our next episode, we'll talk about the latest and how it went against Cincinnati. But until then, for Michelle Kaufman, I'm Andre Fernandez. As always, thank you for watching Inside Inter Miami. Remember to catch us on YouTube or at MiamiHerald.com and on all those podcatchers if you're just listening. Until next week, have a good one and enjoy the game, everybody.